Hello and welcome to the program this week. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
The Alliance of Sahel States, AES, hosted its first youth forum in Niamey, focusing on building a united Sahelian confederation with the main driving force from the younger generation. Key officials and representatives of various youth collectives from the AES member states made speeches. Representatives from Togo and Chad were also invited as honored delegation from a broader regional perspective. Themed Rethinking Regional Integration, the role of the youth in building the AES. The planned discussion focused on key topics such as boosting youth employment, advancing education, fostering technological innovation, enhancing regional security, and strengthening AES institutions. Leader of the National Union for Democracy and Progress, Bello Boba Maigari, announced his presidential candidacy during a congress in Yaoundé on Saturday, shifting away from the long-term ally of the president, Paul Biya, ahead of Cameroon's October elections.
Governing body of our party, which is the Central Committee.
The 78-year-old says the party has decided to participate in the next presidential election with their own candidate and have asked him to be the candidate, and he has accepted. The decision comes after 4 months before the presidential election and just days after the Front for the National Salvation of Cameroon FNSC party leader Issa Chiroma Bakare resigned from the government and declared his own candidacy. A tribute march in Bangui for the students killed during a fatal crash at a school descended into a violence after authorities banned the gathering and forcibly dispersed participants. Demonstrators marched through the Central African Republic's Capitol building, holding candles and chanting before kneeling in silence. Police then intervened, surrounding the crowd and detaining participants. The march was organized in response to the deaths of 29 students after a transformer explosion triggered panic. At least Barthelemy Bongarda during her final exams. 280 others were injured in the incident. Eswatini King Eswatini III has marked his first visit to the Ashanti Kingdom in Kumasi. Southern Ghana was warmly welcomed by Santehene Osei Tutu II and the locals. The majestic ceremony held at the Mahia Palace, where the Swani monarch greeted by Osei Tutu II, his queen, along with dozens of lively performances from local artists. During the ceremony, King Mswati III praised the cultural ceremony's vibrant displays of unity and identity. Event participants also expressed their support for the king's official visit to Ashanti, paying tribute to the preservation of long-standing friendships and cultural interactions between African monarchs.
Cultural ceremonies are vibrant displays of unity and identity passed down from our ancestors. They are a celebration of culture preserved through the ages, now entrusted to us to vigorously pass it on to our children. In a world of competing foreign influences, we must hold fast to these traditions, ensuring they remain the heartbeat of our identity.
King Mswati III of Eswatini, during his visit to Ghana, also signed an MOU to boost cooperation. The tour was highlighted by his meeting with the Asantehene at Mahia Palace, marked by cultural exchanges and a tour of the Palace Museum.
To our main stories for today, civic rights groups say at least 7 people have been killed during a crackdown on protesters who are calling for Togo's President Faure Gnassingbé to step down and release political prisoners. Reports say dozens more people were injured, some severely. It comes weeks after President Yasimbe was sworn into a new post of President of the Council of Ministers, which has no official term limits. He was president for 2 decades and his family has ruled the country for 58 years. The Togolese government has now threatened legal action against the protest organizers, describing the demonstrations as a campaign of disinformation and hatred that was orchestrated from abroad. Demonstrations have been banned in the West African country since 2022, with the authorities citing security reasons. All 3 days of demonstrations by online activists and youth-led movements began in the capital, Lome, Thursday last week, before taking a violent turn on Friday and Saturday. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have signed a landmark U.S. and Qatari brokered peace agreement in Washington, D.C., putting an end to years of conflict between the two neighboring countries. DRC's Foreign Minister Therese Wagner stressed that the agreement is a starting point and not the end goal, emphasizing Kinshasa's determination to implement the deal. Meanwhile, Rwandan Foreign Minister Olivier Nduhungirehe called the deal a turning point and highlighted Kigali's commitment to assisting displaced residents in their return home. The agreement outlines the joint initiation of a regional economic integration plan within 90 days, alongside the establishment of a coordinated security mechanism within 30. Additionally, it mandates the withdrawal of thousands of Rwandan troops from Congolese territory within 3 months. This accord also offers a potential turning point in the ongoing conflict driven by M23 rebels in North and South Kivu, which has killed thousands of people and displaced hundreds of thousands since January.
Well, this is, an important moment after 30 years of war. President Trump is a president of peace. He really does want peace. He prioritizes it above all else. We saw his intervention in the conflict between India and Pakistan. We saw his intervention most recently as a few days ago in a very dangerous war, right? A very dangerous war that could have really spiraled out of control, and his intervention made that possible. And there are other places that we want to see this, but we're very excited about this, and we can't wait to have the heads of state, the presidents of the respective countries here in Washington in a few weeks to finalize the complete protocol and agreement.
The heart of this peace agreement is the decision to establish a standing joint security coordination mechanism between DRC and Rwanda. The first order of business is to begin implementing of the concept of operations for the neutralization of the FDLR, to be accompanied by a lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. With this agreement, we also committed to facilitate the return of refugees in our respective territories with the support of the UNHCR. Creating the conditions for the safe and dignified return of refugees is vital to achieve lasting peace. There is no doubt that the road ahead will not be easy, but with the continued support of the United States and other partners, we believe that a turning point has been reached. Rwanda stands ready to work with the DRC to deliver on our joint commitments.
With this peace agreement, we open a new chapter, one that calls not only for commitment, but for the courage to see it through. By signing this agreement, we reaffirm a simple truth. Peace is a choice, but also responsibility, to respect international law, to uphold human rights, and to protect the sovereignty of states. Those who have suffered the most are watching. They are expecting this agreement to be respected, and we cannot fail them.
We're in South Africa now, where the Democratic Alliance DA party has withdrawn from a national dialogue initiative after the leader of the party referred to it as nothing more than a waste of time and money. John Steenhuisen said on Saturday that corruption was plaguing the government, which he blamed on President Cyril Ramaphosa, but stopped short of leaving the coalition. Well, following last year's general election, where President Ramaphosa's African National Congress lost its parliamentary majority for the first time in 3 decades, it was forced to team up with the DA, the second biggest party, to form a government called the Government of National Unity, GNU. The two parties are ideologically different. However, the DA is said to be market-friendly and right-leaning, while the ANC is a centre-left party, leaving the two sides to repeatedly clash over issues such as the budget and black empowerment laws. Last month, President Ramaphosa launched the process to unite the country, referred to as a national dialogue, to address the most significant issues affecting South Africa. Well, joining us now is our correspondent in South Africa, Innocent Samosa. He joins us now from Johannesburg. Hello, Innocent. How significant is this story, and particularly what are the challenges facing this government of national unity partners?
Yeah, indeed, colleague. A very good evening to you and our viewers around the world. Indeed, it does seem as though the leader of the Democratic Alliance, that is John Steenhuisen, he's tired of the GNU. He's tired to be treated, what he said, it's like a stepchild of the GNU, but he's not very tired to actually leave the GNU. He mentioned today that his party will stay on, but a scathing remarks there saying that the ANC must not force them. They should not push them into leaving the government of national unity. But it does seem as though the cracks are starting to show now. I guess the challenge here, colleague, to go back to your question, it's political identity here, because the challenge started when the president fired the deputy minister of the Democratic Alliance, that is Mr. The name is not ringing, but it started there when he fired him because he took a trip to the United States without the president's approval. But then the question is, if that was the reason, why did the president took 4 months to actually fire this deputy minister? Those are the questions. So now we find ourselves here where the DA says that, no, why are you firing our minister when you, in your cabinet, you have members of your cabinet who are implicated in the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, and they're still ministers? Why are you not firing them? So that's where it's coming from. But either way, so they said that they will not actually engage in the national dialogue as a form of a protest to President Ramaphosa's way of uniting the country. But it does seem as though we're looking at issues around political identity. There are many disagreements in the government of national unity where I guess it's going to be citizens who feel the pinch of this, because we want this government of national unity to work, but for it to work, there must be compromises. But it does seem as though, Layo, the politicians here, they are not ready to compromise their political ideologies to suit others so that they can obviously make the country work, for a lack of a better term.
Now, with the DA pulling out of this initiative, help us understand what President Ramaphosa's expectation is with this process of national dialogue that he launched.
Yeah, indeed. So the dialogue really, according to the presidency, is to unite the country, is to hear what citizens want from the government. But then if the DA protest like this and say that they don't want to be part of this, it's going to be challenging because they are holding key positions. For an example, the leader of the Democratic Alliance is leading the portfolio of agriculture, and which is quite key in the country. It contributes massively to South Africa's GDP growth. And if is not part of that process, it's going to be challenging. And you look at the issues around also education. The Minister of Higher Education the Minister of Education in the country is from the Democratic Alliance. So it's going to be challenging for them not to be part of this. But we've not heard the president as to whether what he's going to do to convince or better to mend the relationship with the DA so that they can go ahead with this national dialogue. So the idea really is to hear what citizens want and what are some of the things that they think that the government can do to better the economy of South Africa. I'm talking to you right now, Layo. The unemployment rate the numbers are simply not looking good, and young people are running out of ideas, because when they go to government looking for money to fund their entrepreneurial journeys, it's not happening. So they're running out of ideas and they're running out of patience. So that is why I guess the president is embarking on this journey to say that, okay, let's listen to you. How do we help each other? But again, it does seem as though the president took longer to basically dismiss the deputy minister of trade and industry there, because I mean it happened 4 months ago, and it's now that the president has to dismiss him.
Thank you so much, Innocent Musa, our correspondent in South Africa.
Thank you, colleague.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has addressed the Parliament of St. Lucia, calling for deepening cooperation between both countries. This comes during President Tinubu's state visit to the Caribbean nation. Earlier, President Tinubu and Prime Minister Philippe Pierre of St. Lucia committed to establishing formal diplomatic relations between both nations. This was during the courtesy visit to the Prime Minister at his official residence in Castries on the second day of the Nigerian leaders' visit. Both leaders discussed ongoing efforts to strengthen bilateral engagement, which he says would lay the foundation for enhanced cooperation in trade, investment, tourism, education and cultural exchange, while also improving consular services for citizens of both countries. The Kenyan mask vendor who was shot at close range by a police officer during a protest in Nairobi has been declared brain dead. Doctors at Kenyatta National Hospital revealed to Boniface Kariuki's family on Sunday that his brainstem is no longer functioning. The family says the hospital bill is now higher than 3 million Kenyan shillings, even as they pray and hope for his well-being. The 22-year-old, a hawker like his father, was holding a packet of face masks and is believed to have been caught up in a confrontation with two officers in Nairobi as hundreds of protesters clashed with police. Well, one officer who had concealed his face shot him at close range in the head and walked away. Tuesday's protest in the capital followed tensions over the death of a blogger, Albert Ojwang, who was found dead while in police custody at the Central Police Station. The U.S. sanctions over alleged chemical weapons use in Sudan has come into force, and they include restrictions on U.S. exports, arms sales, and financial assistance to Sudan, and is expected to stay in place for at least a year. Now, only humanitarian assistance will not be affected by the sanctions. Sudan's army leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and his former deputy, who is also the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, Mohamed Dagalo, are already sanctioned by the U.S. The latest embargo was prompted by allegations of chemical weapons use by Sudan's military in operations against RSF fighters. Citing anonymous U.S. officials, local media in the U.S. reported in January that government soldiers deployed chlorine gas known to cause severe respiratory pain and death in their military operations. However, Sudanese officials deny the accusation. A power struggle between Sudan's army rulers in 2023 plunged the country into a brutal civil war, which has killed tens of thousands of people. The conflict has also displaced 13 million people, creating what the United Nations describes as the world's worst humanitarian crisis. In the meantime, the security conditions in Sudan remain dire. This is according to the UN Assistant Secretary General for Africa, Martha Poby. Briefing the Security Council, she says the conditions are marked by shifting front lines, increased and often indiscriminate aerial assaults by both the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces. She also highlights the growing use of advanced weaponry, including long-range drones, that has expanded hostilities into previously stable areas of the country.
Security conditions remain dire, marked by shifting front lines, increased and often indiscriminate aerial assaults by both the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces, and continuous attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure, including hospitals. The warring parties appear unrelenting in their resolve to pursue military objectives. The fighting shows no signs of abating. In recent weeks, the focus of the conflict has shifted once more to the Darfur and Kordofan regions. The Kordofans are increasingly emerging as an epicenter of fighting. We are particularly worried about the growing use of advanced weaponry, including long-range drones. This has expanded hostilities into previously stable areas of the country. Aerial attacks in populated areas have already caused significant civilian casualties and mass displacement. It is time to take concrete steps to end the senseless suffering of the Sudanese people.
As African nations, it is fine to take the path of peace. However, there is a need to learn lessons from the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Well, this is according to geopolitical risk and defense consulting expert Onyekachi Adekoya, who's urging African leaders to rethink their country's security apparatus, diplomatic approaches, and decision-making process.
On the position of Africa and Nigeria, of course, we have a non-analyst position as a country in Nigeria, and our foreign policy position sometimes a bit clumsy and confusing. So it's fine to take the path of peace, but what lessons are we learning? It's a good question to ask, really, because the sneak attack on Iran followed a similar pattern to the sneak attack on Russia. Same thing, same principles, same objectives, you know, different methodologies, but the same thing. And every time I think about Nigeria, and I think about our military assets, defense assets, and I think about the alliance in the Sahelian states and the geopolitical conflict going on in the Sahel, the challenges with Francophone Africa, and, you know, just to look at the level of destabilization that Iran suffered and its ability to recover, you know, in merely 2-3 days and, you know, launch its own response was quite remarkable. So I'm thinking, how prepared is Nigeria were we to suffer a complex attack like this? You know, what communication systems do we have? How resilient are they? Our weapons manufacturing systems are totally dependent on foreign powers, you know, and we say we are the giant of Africa, you know. So when the conflict tilts out of the Western Asia part and the pivot to Asia is achieved, I mean, the door to Africa is open. And we're now in a geopolitical scenario where might is right and everybody's arming up to the teeth, and Africa is taking a pacifist position. Meanwhile, Pakistan the other day has just announced that it's going to go ahead and modernize its nuclear arsenal, you know, achieve supersonic missile systems. The question is, what's to stop any great power tomorrow that sees Africa as ready for the blocking and decides to move in on Africa? You know, how resilient are our own defense systems? Because that's the order we are in. You know, you've heard the talk about New World Order, New World Order. The UN is failing and, you know, looks to become obsolete in the near term. What we find obtainable now is what we call a global strategic world order, where nations enter into alliances for their own national interests first. That's why you see alliances like BRICS coming up, the CSO, the Quads, the Five Eyes, the EU, NATO. We are now in that order where every country must think, what is in it for my country and what is in it for my people? So in the midst of all these conflicts going on, while we are having our regional conflicts in Africa, is to ask ourselves questions. In the scheme of armaments, where is Africa? Where are we in Nigeria in terms of our weapon systems? How are we able to project and protect our interests in Africa or even in West Africa? Do we have the near-term capability? Do we have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan? Because this current phase of a multipolar world, where we've moved from a single polar hegemon, which was the United States, to now having competitors in Russia, in China. For this war in Iran, for example, Pakistan took a position, China and Russia, those are nuclear powers taking a position to support Iran. So we are going to see more of this clash of interests. And Africa, of course, is the next frontier, as it were. So African leaders must begin to think about their own internal security, how they do the diplomacy, what is the need for Africa in any position that we take.
You can watch more of Oyenkachi Adeokoya's thoughts on the conflicts between Israel and Iran on our Foreign Affairs program, Diplomatic Channel. It airs tonight at 8:30 on Sky 515 in the UK and at 11:30 on DSTV 420. Or you can catch it on the playlist Channels Television on YouTube. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.